Hi, everyone. My name is Brewton. I am the owner of Medicare Answers Now, and today we're going to talk about public speaking because, well, I don't do that at all. No, really, it is definitely something that I see agents are inside your head and scared about doing and are looking to get better at it. So, considering that I do anywhere between 75 in-person trainings a year, from everything from 40 people up to a couple thousand people in attendance, and everything in between, and then add in all of the webinars and things. I put this together. It is just going to be me talking today. So there are no formal slides for you guys to stare at. You just have to stare at my face and the dog toys behind me in case Shiloh gets out of his nap and comes over and says hello, but we're just going to chat about it. And this is one of those things that I'm going to get a little transparent on, just so that you can see the humanity that goes into this. And even when you've been doing it as long as me, I still get the jitters too, so that you're not inside of your head when it comes to public speaking. So the first thing that I will tell you is breathe. Everybody gets nervous, including me. I actually just said this to an agent of mine earlier this morning. She was doing her first one-on-one, and she's like, "This freaks me out completely." And I said, "I get that. I totally do. And I have anxiety attacks before every single event, regardless of how many people that are there. Some of those anxiety attacks are a little bigger than others, but there are things that I get the jitters just like you guys do. And believe it or not, even though I can be in a hotel filled with people that are there for a conference of mine, in the back of my head, there's that insecurity that nobody's going to show up in the morning because everybody was out too late or for whatever reason. But in my head, I just think that I'm going to be talking to an empty room. And that freaks me out. So know that it is not just you. And there's multiple ways to go about a presence that you have. But there's also things that you need to keep in mind when you are public speaking that are things that you probably don't have on your radar. So my first question is in the chat box, can you tell me, have you done, outside of doing a speech in school, have you ever presented in front of people before? And you can say yes or no, but throw that in the chat box so that I get an idea of background as to what you guys do. Okay, so the majority of you have gone ahead and talked before. I've got a handful of you that are new to that. So I'm going to gloss over the ABCs of never presenting before, and then we'll go into other pieces, parts, and I will probably go the full hour. Hopefully you have a notepad. For those of you who have never heard me talk before, you want one because you will take notes. I tend to speak pretty quickly. If there are questions that you have, put them in the chat box. I'll answer them live as we go through the content. But to go ahead and get started. So when you are doing events and when you are planning to speak somewhere, the first thing is that you want to, because you're the one that's speaking, you want to talk that up. You want people to know that you're going to be out and about and teaching wherever. When I formally introduce myself, it's, "Hi, my name's Amanda Brewton. I teach Medicare for a living." That is the easiest way for me to break down what I do. If I went into the bells and the whistles and all of the other 9,000 hats, it would go over somebody's head, right? So talk up the events that you're doing. When you are scheduling these events, you want to go a minimum of 3 weeks out. That gives you more than enough time to get them out on social media. It gets you the ability to put them out on Eventbrite, which is other free software that you can use to promote events. But you have to promote your own stuff. And if you're not excited about the events that you're having, why should anybody else, right? So I'm going to start at the very beginning of things that you need to keep in mind. And some of this you're going to laugh at. Some of it you're going to go, you've got to be kidding me that you go down to that finite detail, and the answer is yes. So what am I talking about? One of the first things that you need to keep in mind, your fingernail. Of all things, your fingernail. And why is that important, ladies? Because if you have neon yellow or orange nails, and if you're like me, where you talk with your hands, guess what happens? Ooh, look at the pretty nails. I'm going to concentrate on the colors as you're waving your hands and not what you're actually saying. So you want to tone down your nails to nude colors. Very, very conservative. And yes, it is stupid, but you want to do it. I found this out by one of the rooms that I was in. An agent said, I had such a hard time going ahead and paying attention because I was looking at your nails, and at the time, they were painted purple for Halloween, and it's a problem. So fix your nails. Next thing, your clothes. Again, dumb things, but we got to start with these things and then build up to it. No cha-cha skirts. No cha-cha skirts. If it's 2 inches above your knee, that is high enough. If you've got a cha-cha, the other side is going the other way. Nothing with the deep V where the boobies are hanging out. Not a good look, guys, especially on a stage. And if you are on an elevated stage at any point in time and that skirt is short, guess what's going to happen? You got people that are sitting at a low level at a table. You're elevated, and all it takes is you taking one step, and now they're seeing the hoo-ha. And yes, you can laugh at me all you want with some of this, but it has to be said. When you're doing your low cut shirts, if they go, usually you want to go about 2 inches from the center of your chest and your breast. That's where your shirt should hit. Because when you're hugging, when you're moving, as you shift, your shirt is going to shift, and you don't need the tatas flopping out. Get a pin and pin your dresses if they are too low cut. I pin the majority of mine just because I want to ease the anxiety of that. But those are things that you want to be aware of when you are hitting a stage. Another one, don't wear 6-inch heels. Me, I can't walk in regular flat shoes. I would rather be in bare feet all day long, any day. So running the risk of being in a heel, a super, super high heel, and walking around and tripping on something, that ends up being one that you have to be aware of. So nothing more than, I would say, a 2.5-inch heel that still gives you a decent height, but it's not where you are hook or heel, right? And yes, I have my own language, so I'm sure some of you are just shaking your head going, oh my God, but it's stuff that has to happen. Lizzie says, if you're like me and love gel colors, you can temporarily swipe out a nude coat or 2 of regular polish to conceal it, and then remove the nail polish gently, and then that way, you can put them back. My manicurist knows the weeks that I teach, I go to very, very understated. I'm on a French tip kick right now. So this is the thing that I gravitated to, is just French tips, or I go to a very nude mauve color. I have like 3 go-tos that match my lipstick. And that's where that's usually where I gravitate to. My loud colors are colors when I'm not teaching, because then they're not nearly as distracted as anything else. And yes, it does matter. If you go out there blazing with, bright blue fingers, it's an issue. Bosom buttons, yeah. So they're tacks that you can use. It's another way to go ahead and make sure that your blouses or things are not flying open. There's a bunch of different ways that you can tack that, but you do want to go ahead and make sure that you are doing that, so that if you're bending, you have to pick up a piece of paper. Last thing you want to do, if you drop your notes, last thing you want to do is have somebody look down your shirt. And it happens. So, which, speaking of that, if you drop something on the floor, drop, and when you go to pick it up, drop from your knee. Don't go straight leg bend at the hip. Drop at your knee to pick it up, so that way you're staying as upright as you can as you pick up the whatever it is from the floor, in the event that happens. Other things to keep in mind, that those are the biggest distractions when it comes to your attire, when you're talking, and physical presentation. The other thing that I will tell you is roll your shoulders back. We talked about this at Ms. Medicare, but it needs to be said again. Your posture needs to shift. You need to shift as though you own the room. And how that happens is, and I'll reference again, if you have read, Are You There, Goddess, Me, Margaret? You know the whole roll your shoulders back, boobs out. That's what you want to do. You want to correct your posture and look straight on, so that way you have that posture. It shows that you're self-assured. When you have hunched over and you're hiding, if you're hiding yourself, then it just exudes insecurity, and that matters. The reason why it matters is when you have a large group of people in a room and you're trying to get their attention, you need to command that presence. And that is one that can happen by screwing on a smile and saying good morning. It can happen by saying, can I have your attention? We're about to get started. You want to go ahead and be welcoming. Make sure that even if you're scared, you got to screw the smile on. And you never want to stand where your hands are folded in front of you. They can be at your sides. You can talk with your hands. God knows I do. But you want to, don't hide yourself. You should be proud of yourself. You should be excited about what you're doing. And that it's a super cool opportunity to be able to get in front of a group. The more energized that you are and excited that you are to be there, the better. Everybody that knows me knows I am not a morning person. So when I have to be downstairs on a floor by 7:30 and I've had 3 hours of sleep because I flew in the night before, coffee is my best friend. Dunkin' Donuts specifically. And if I can DoorDash that stuff and suck it down before I get downstairs, you best believe I'm going to do it, because the second that coffee hits in, game on, there's energy. It will tell you the next thing that I do. I have an anthem song. I don't know if you do, but I do. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, Ms. Medicare does have a Spotify playlist. It is out on Spotify under Ms. Medicare. Very first song that's on that is Ms. Independent by Neo, and that is my energy song. I have sung that song every day before an event of mine, and any time that I have taught, every single time. Something about it, it goes ahead, and I'm usually driving to my event. That song is playing blasted on the radio, and I'm singing off tune. Does two things. One, it gets me in the right frame of mind, because I got this. Next thing it's going to do is that I'm singing, so now it's got the, I'm warming up my vocal cords, because more often than not, I don't use a mic. And then the other piece of that is the song is Miss Independent by Neo. And I just put it in the chat. But I sing, and I sing all sorts of different songs. Some of them are silly, some of them are not. My staff will tell you that when I'm at work, I will blast music off of a bullet speaker. And my latest one is a Harry Belafonte song, and I'm singing it at the top of my lungs. But when you do that, it warms up your throat. It also gives you that energy that you need to walk in and conquer the day. And again, if you're not excited to be there, no one else is going to be. You have to have that. So when you're going ahead and, after I go ahead and if I'm in a larger room, I do a mic check. Make sure that the microphone's on, make sure that, that everybody can hear me. Sometimes you have a handheld, sometimes the wireless ones that pin into your clothes, that is referred to as a lavalier. And I'm going to go ahead and put that in the chat. A lavalier mic are the wireless ones that have the battery pack that goes in the back of your clothes. Now, when you are using a wireless mic, they've got one of two things that they're going to do. And if you ever get into a room that has sound people, you will need to not be freaked out that if you're going to do a lavalier, they're going to pin it in between your boobs. And then they're going to go ahead and they'll put the battery pack either on the back of your shirt, down your shirt and hooked onto your bra, or they're going to put it into a pocket. I don't like them in my pocket because, one, most of the clothes that I have don't have pockets. And then two, the weight of it sinks the clothes because usually it's lighter. For gentlemen, because I saw that there's a couple of guys on the call, same thing for you. They're going to hook it in between your on your button-down shirt, if that's what you're wearing, or a polo. They'll put it right in the center, usually about midway. And then they'll give you the battery pack to either put on your belt loop, put on your belt, or hook on your pants or in your pocket, depending on whichever works for you. When you're using a lavalier, be cognizant of any time that you drop and look down at the floor, you are going to hear Darth Vader. No heavy breathing. It doesn't turn anybody on. Okay? So when you breathe, breathe straight ahead, never down. And that's one of those that you have to be aware of. The other one is if you have a hot mic. So a hot mic means that it's on. And you guys have seen the TV shows that where somebody walks into the bathroom to pee and their mic's on so everybody hears the conversation in the ladies' room or the men's room. That is real. That does go ahead and happen. So what you want to do is one of two things. There's a thing on the battery pack that you can turn on and off, and then it's going to have usually about a 5-second delay between when the mic is literally off or back on. If you have to be mic'd throughout the day, like when I'm running my conferences, I'm mic'd all day. When that happens, make sure that somebody has shut off your mic, and then tap it before you talk. If it's a hot mic and somebody comes up to you and they start to talk, go like this, put your hand over your chest, over the mic to stop it from picking up any of the information, anything that is being said. And then give it a second for somebody to turn it off. The second that you put your hand over that mic, it's not going to pick up anything that is there, okay? So those are the things that you want to be aware of when you are working with microphones, okay? So that's a lavalier. The other ones that you have are a handheld. I tend to throw things because I talk with my hands. And I know this. that I throw things. They come out of my hand, whether it's a clicker for a presentation, whether it's a handheld, like they just accidentally go across the room. Be cognizant of that. So hold the mic. There'll be an on and off switch either on the side of it or on the very bottom. It will have a green light when it's on usually, and then turn it back off. When you talk in a handheld mic, okay, that mic has got to be in your face. Lavaliers are much more sensitive, so you don't need that, and you don't have to yell or scream. They'll pick it up like that. It's a super sensitive mic. When you have a handheld, you have to test to figure out how far you can go. Usually it is no more than 6 inches from your mouth. That is as low or as far away that the mic can be. Otherwise, it will no longer pick up sound. They're awful. So that's one of those things that be aware of. And when you're using a handheld mic and people say, I can't hear you, that's why. You have to be able to do that. So if you're using a handheld, I would, and somebody introduce you, I would be like, good morning, it's great to see everybody. Can you hear me all right? If they say no, move the mic up closer to your mouth, increase your volume, and say, how about now? We all are talking to seniors, so they're hard of hearing to begin with. Don't ever lose where that mic is positioned. Make sense? Okay, so other things to go ahead and keep in mind when you are on a stage. So first thing is that usually you're going to have somebody that introduces you. If you don't and you are the hostess with the mostest, you have to create the energy. And I think I've said that at least a dozen times now, which that is how important this is. I don't know about you, but I don't like presenters that read from presentation. Hate that. Send me the damn slide deck. I'll look at it myself. I don't need you to read to me. You're not my mom and I'm not 4. The other one is that I don't want Bueller, and today we're going to talk about this. Don't you think this is so fun and exciting to hear me talk today about how this is going to work? And isn't there so much energy in my voice when I talk like this? Don't do that. You see how much difference there is between that and now my energy is totally changed. I've got a smile on my face. The inflection in my voice keeps changing up and down. You have to have that. So when you are working and you're trying to do this, learn how to do that with your voice. You want to, today we're going to talk about Medicare 101, or today we're going to talk about the Inflation Reduction Act and how this goes ahead and it's relevant to you. So in addition to all the 9,000 questions that you guys have, I'm going to follow a couple of things or I'm going to share a few things so that way you're good to go. Do you see how many times my voice went up and down like that? That's far more interesting than me saying the same thing. Today we're going to talk about 2025 Inflation Reduction Act and how it's pertinent to you. I'm sure that you have more questions and we'll get to those later, but for now I'm going to share information with you. Which one would you rather have, 1 or 2? Put it in the chat. All day long, right? That one's a hell of a lot more energetic. So you have to create the energy that you want to see in the audience. The other thing that you want to do is you want to say first off, write your questions down. I'm going to take questions at the end. So I'm sure you're going to have questions. There's notepads at your desk or at your seat. If you have a question that comes up, please write it down. And then at the end of the presentation, I'm happy to answer them. You can go ahead and you can do it that way. Or you can do like I do. I hate formal presentation. I like answering questions real time so that I can know whether I have to spend more time on a given topic or I need to clarify how I've explained something, or it's just somebody that has scrolled off onto something totally left field and I need to yell at them to pay attention to me. Either way, you have to figure out what works best for you. Some of you may start with okay, I don't know that I'm too nervous about doing this with questions in my presentation. Let me wait and start with them at the end, and then I'll graduate up. That's totally fine. There are some that I do that are save it at the end. I want to make sure that I've covered my information, and then there's more often than not, mine now are all where we're dialoguing in between and I'm watching what's happening so that I can make sure that there's engagement and people aren't falling asleep on me. The other thing that I will tell you when you're presenting, move around. If you hear anything out of what I am saying, focus on your inflection, which is moving your voice up and down. And I want you to figure out how to walk around. Nobody likes staring at something stationary. That's why webinars are so hard for people to actually pay attention to. You need to move around. You need to work the room. You need to be able to, I don't care if it's 5 feet back and forth and all you're doing is pacing. You have to move a little bit. And the reason why you do that is so that it follow the yellow dot, Let me go ahead and follow that. It's much easier to pay attention to. When you are moving and creating movement, there's interest. Where's he going? What's he doing? Well, what's happening? You want that in the back of their head as they're paying attention to you, okay? When you teach, they are going to, if it's a good class, they're going to get more than this. But at the very basic, 3 key things are you trying to say to somebody? What are the 3 key takeaways that you want somebody to walk away from that interaction with you? No more, no less. 3. You're driving home 3 points. What are those? And everything that you communicate in that particular session needs to be around those 3 key things or those 3 action items. The other thing to keep in mind when you teach, and especially with adults, they need to see it, they need to hear it, and they need to write it. So if you noticed at the beginning of this class, I said, if you don't have a notebook, you better go get one, right? If you have been in any of my conferences, you have been at any of my in-person events, I have notebooks at every single seat. Every single seat. There is always a pen at every single seat. Because if they didn't bring the paper, you're going to walk out with it with my branding all over that stuff so that way you can reference it. But I want you to write the information down. When it gets to key points, tell them, write that down. You guys have heard me say this before. When I've been teaching or I've interrupted somebody that's been speaking in the back of the class, which I have a habit of doing, catch that note, guys. Write that down. That's important. How many of you guys have heard me say that? You want to do the same with your attendees because then they realize, oh, I better pay attention. This is something that's on the test, right? And you got to go back to grade school flashbacks because that's what they relate to. So that is another piece that you want to go ahead and do, okay? When you are moving around, you can walk to one side of the room, stay there for a minute, walk to the other side of the room, stay there for a minute. You can walk up in between aisles if you want. Have some of that. If you're on a stage, well, then it's minimized as to how you can do that. But you still want to be able to either talk with your hands or something so that way you have the interaction that is there, okay? Any questions on the stuff that I've talked about so far? Does this help? Okay. So now let's talk about how the hell do you do this when you're nervous in a room and, oh God, you've got to figure out what you're going to say and you need to hopefully that it's smart. And I don't know anybody and I'm going to be embarrassed because I'm in front of all of my colleagues and I don't know what to say. And oh God, what are you going to do? And not puke. Yes. So, first, don't eat Mexican the night before. Don't eat seafood or anything else that's going to go ahead and make you want to throw up because you have an upset stomach. Take some antacids if you need them so that way you're good. Add on top of it that, like I said, get yourself in the mindset. So play your jam music. Sing while you're doing your makeup or while you're in the shower and all of the other stuff, right? You need to do a dry run. So when I first started doing these, I would do a test audience and say, hey, I need to catch a flow. I'm going to buy you dinner. Will you let me run through a presentation? What I found about myself is I can't do note cards. I can't do them. Everything that I teach is on the fly. I have as my employees say, in my computer brain, I have an outline that's written about the things that I want to cover in X amount of time. And from there, then I just talk to it. If I have note cards and I have to do a structured presentation, I will and forget my train of thought all day long. So you have to figure out what works for you. Some of you've got to use note cards because that's where that's at. Don't read your card. What you want to do is that you can look at them. So have them where they're bullet points. I need to talk about posture. I need to talk about nails. I need to talk about microphones. I need to talk about, and just have one word bullet points so that it's easy to find on the card. You can do that all day long. You can have a slide deck that you're using and advance through it and use that as a baseline. But the slide deck is just your guide. The majority of the stuff that the audience should be getting is out of your mouth, not on the screen. So when you're doing this, you want to have that as an option. For me, like I said, when I start presenting new material, I am nervous as hell. And especially when it's in front of colleagues where it's oh God, let's make sure that I'm right because somebody's going to point out that I'm going to be wrong. I guarantee that. And can I cite my sources when somebody calls me on something and says, you don't know what you're talking about? Because it happens all the time. Can I politely respond to that and cite the sources without losing my train of thought and not wanting to cry in the corner? And the answer is yes. But that ends up being something that you have to work. So Dana says, is the rumor true about picturing everyone naked that helps, or is that an old wives' tale? Depends on who you talk to. I don't use that. What I use is I divide my room in half. From wherever the stage is, you divide it in half. And preferably, I want 3 people. I want one center, one on the side, and one on this side. And I am looking for people that have good eye contact with me while I'm standing in front of them. And I'm going to talk to those 3 people. It doesn't matter if there's 3,000 people in that room. I'm talking to those 3 people, or I'm talking to the people that I know. And I go from one to the other to the next, back, over. So you keep going like this with your flow. because it's very hypnotic and it's very easy to keep that tempo with where you're looking as you're talking with everything else. So that's my way of doing it. And then I talk to those people as though I'm talking to a friend, because usually they are. So for me, it's, and I want the eye contact with that person. It just makes it more intimate for me. Everybody else disappears from the room, and then I can have the conversation. And then now it's not daunting that, oh God, there's 170 people in the room, and am I going to make an idiot out of myself, and do I sound like a moron? Which then, if I do sound like a moron, I laugh at myself and go, oops, there was a slip. And then you pick up. Most people respect how hard this is to do. So you want to go ahead and keep that in the back of your head. Usually you aren't going to have somebody that heckles you. Usually, which I will talk about that in a minute, when you're talking, you will have, the hardest part is getting everybody to sit down, and that class is starting, right? So I usually start with some kind of music that starts in the beginning. The music comes off. I stand on the stage. I will usually, as the longer that I'm on the stage, the more that people start to realize, okay, I want to get started. I usually do a warning call where it's like, guys, 5 minutes, we're going to get started. Please have your seats. And then from there, when I'm ready, most of you know my signature is I'm going to say good morning. And based on how loud the room is, sometimes it's loud and I'm like, okay, we're awake. Everybody's had their coffee, game on, let's go. And I'm going to say that because then it lightens the mood. If they know that you're human and that you're going to have some fun and it's engaging, they're more receptive to be engaging to you than, good morning. Great. I see we're all here. Please sit down. We're going to get started. And today's topic is going to be, how boring can I be before I want to shoot myself, right? There's such a difference between those two. So you got to create your own energy. So, and then you have fun with it. You know, half the time I'm talking on the fly, I'm using examples that are relatable. Put it in English, guys. If your kid can't understand, your teenage kid can't understand what you're trying to teach, then you're too far down into the weeds on what it is that you're doing. Dumb it down. And it's not that they're stupid. It's that you do this all day long. They don't. So you have to put it in a language that they understand. So putting analogies into things work really, really well. I had somebody, I was at the senior summit in Pachanga 2 weeks ago, and one of the agents that, one of the speakers was talking about the payment plan and said, think of it like a layaway plan or giving credit cards to a high schooler or a college student. Not necessarily something that you want to do to everybody. Some can manage that, others can't. But the analogy stuck, and it was one of the coolest ones that I've seen. So find those analogies that work with what you're teaching so then it sticks and it breaks it down into something that's there. Yes, you know what? You can cite your sources and still be scared. I am all day long. Will they come back and say, hey, that's wrong? Probably. And you know what? If somebody starts, debating something with you, then the answer is this. You know what? I appreciate the feedback. Let's take this offline and have a discussion after this meeting. That is code for shut up until I'm done. This is not the time or the place, and you and I can talk after the fact. You maintain control of the room that way, and you're still polite by shutting them on and moving on. The other one is to say, you know what, for sake of time, you have a valid point there. For sake of time, let's move forward with the rest of what I need to cover, and then we'll circle back on that. Usually one of the two of those will get them to calm down and to move to the next topic, so that way you're good to go. So that way you're there. So that's kind of where I am. Ken, your comment about should I try and hide the bulge in my britches? Haha. Candidly, if I have a battery pack in my pocket, I would totally make the joke and be obnoxious, but that's just me. I can pull it off. And then move into something. God knows I've said dumber things in a meeting just to put some levity into it. The trick though is that you don't want to go down a religious rabbit hole. You don't want to go down a political rabbit hole ever. And if you are doing innuendos, keep them I would go on the side of PG. Don't go R or NC-17. That just won't go where. So, Jody, I see your question, but I'm not going to go ahead and go down that rabbit hole, because then this will turn into an IRA conversation, and I've got 15 minutes to finish talking about public speaking. We can talk about that later. When we go ahead, and you just saw how I did that, right? So that's how you want to do that, to stay on point, but then acknowledge the person that has gone ahead and asked you a question to pick it up after the fact. But then you're able to still stay where you need to go and move forward. So let's talk about the idiots that are in the room, which is always a fun one. Now, I have been teaching, and I've got some good stories on this, and my Ohio crew will definitely tell you that they've been in a room, because at least once a year, I have somebody that says, "Who are you? Do you even know what you're talking about?" Well, that's not what so-and-so told me. You don't know. I get that at least once a month, where somebody says that, whether it's social media, whether it's in the room. And it's kind of funny, because the one I did a CE day where I was teaching something, and an agent went, "Well, you don't know what you're talking about." And the room's filled with 300 agents, and you heard everybody go, and they just woo, and they're waiting to hear what I'm going to say. And I've gotten pretty damn good at going ahead and diffusing situations like that. The first one is there's usually, I wait for a minute before responding. When somebody does that, they are testing your professionalism. They are instigating that to see if you're going to lose your shit, and if you're going to fly off the handle. Are you going to have it where you start screaming and yelling because who the hell are you to tell me what I don't know? And who are you? No, we're not fighting back on it. We're going to sit there. We're going to take a deep breath. We're going to count to 5. Sometimes we're going to count to 10. And we're going to let that sink in as to what the idiot said. And I'm going to keep eye contact with them locked. It's not varying. There's no longer anyone in that room but me and that idiot. And my body language changes. My whole tone changes. And as someone says, I mom check. Well, as a matter of fact, yeah, I do know what I'm talking about. And then I'm going to cite my source. And then I'm going to explain that, you may not be aware of these changes because they just came out less than 6 hours ago, or they came out 24 hours ago. It just hasn't disseminated to your FMO yet. And I'm going to say that because, dude, you don't know who you just talked to. Now, there has been times where I've been wrong. Happens all the time. somebody says something and something just came out that I wasn't aware of, or I misquote and confuse Aetna with Anthem, or, whatever it is where I misspeak on a benefit level or something. And someone has to say to me, nope, that's Aetna. Anthem's benefit is this. That's fine. You know what? I appreciate that. Thank you so much for giving me the update. I didn't get too much sleep last night, so my apologies on that. And then I move on. It is not the end of the world if somebody corrects you while you're in the room. If you have, and candidly, I want you to do it. I want you to bail me out so I don't look like an idiot in front of 500 people that go back to research something thinking that what I said was solid, when in turn I got the two carriers mixed because they both start with an A, and it happens. And then now they have the correct information. So be graceful with that. Say thank you. When somebody is heckling, or when I can't get a room to, if I lose control of a room. This happened a couple of weeks ago. It was in front of several of my colleagues. It was in front of a room of 175 agents and people that I value their opinion. And what had happened was I was teaching something, and they went down a rabbit hole. And the harder I tried to pull them out of the rabbit hole and say, no, I can't answer this. I don't want to give you the wrong information. You need to look here for it and attend this webinar so that you get accurate information. They got stuck. So similar thing happened with the what is a deductible. It does happen from time to time. And you have to go ahead and have it where you dial it back. So on the deductible example, I was on a webinar with 1,000 agents. We started talking about the deductible for IRA, and I got the what is the deductible or what's included in a deductible question 9 times. Now, out of respect for the agents that are attending, I'm going to ask and answer it the first time after I've already gone through the information. I'm going to do it a second. And then I'm going to go, okay, guys, clearly you're not paying attention. Stop what you're doing and focus on what I'm saying. I'm going to do it again. And then me being me, I called them out and told them that, well, after they asked the next time, it was, okay, clearly some of y'all need to take the AHIP again because you don't know what the hell you're talking about. And then this is me going, okay, you guys are missing the mark and it's got to happen. Adults have absolutely beyond piss poor listening skills. It is fundamentally one of the worst things. In the last 3 years, people's listening skills have gotten way worse than what they used to be. So finding a way to dial that back and go, okay, pay attention, stop what you're doing, and focus on what I'm saying. Now, yes, I have had people get big pissed at me. Where do you get off talking to me like I'm a kid? You don't get to talk to me like that. Don't tell me to stop with the head movement and all of it.
Oh.
I will. You're on my webinar and you're disruptive. So because of all of the people, out of respect for everybody that's here, pay attention to what I'm saying, stop what you're doing, or get out. I will warn you twice in one of my rooms if you're disruptive having a side conversation. Anyone that's been in my rooms knows that. I'll give you one where I'll go, guys, tone it down. The noise is too loud. Be respectful to the speaker. The second one, I'll go, guys, this is the second one. Keep your conversation until the end, or if you have something that needs to be said, get out. Take it outside. The third time it happens, I'll kick your ass out of my room. And don't think I haven't. And they can be mad at me all that they want, but again, it's disruptive to everybody in the room when it's there. So why did I allow the webinar to go the way that it did with that many people asking the question? One, I had technical issues every 2 seconds, which was a problem. And two, with the amount of people that were asking questions and then people feeding in and trying to help me when I didn't need it, it just inflamed a situation where then it took all the trolls that were in that call and they decided to play a game. Will I ever kill my chat boxes in my meetings? No. There's a reason why I do it that way. And actually there's 2 reasons. I want to see who's asking those questions. If I'm doing new information and I don't have the timing correct, I need to know, am I focusing enough time on the information or am I going ahead and am I too technical? If it's agents asking questions that have attended events of mine before and they're asking the questions, it's too technical or I need to spend more time, hands down. If it's people that are asking questions that are squirreling, that tells me that it's new people that have never heard me talk before. And I got to school them on how they need to attend my event. And yes, I did say that like that because when I first started, agents would come, they wouldn't bring paper, they wouldn't bring pen, they would sit there and not retain the information, and it was awful. Fast forward to about 3 months where they've gone and they've been in front of me a couple of times. They're coming with backpacks, pad folios, pens, their rocket books, their reminder, whatever the electronic books, all of the things coming like they're in school and ready to roll. You have to set the expectation of what it is that you want. Now, when you're doing social things, there's a hell of a lot more fun that you can put into those. They're not nearly as formal as what some of the other types of teaching that I'm talking about. But at the end of the day, you have to have fun with it. You have to have it where it's memorable. And those are always things that if you set the expectation, more often than not, they'll rise to the challenge. And those that don't either won't come back, which they're not your audience, and that's okay if they're not. Not everybody's going to, I will tell you this, not everybody likes the way that I teach. I offend usually about a third of the room because I talk like a truck driver. I say it as it is. It intimidates the hell out of people. And I don't say that because I'm excited about it. It's just fact. It's me. There's a whole other side of the room that is like, give it to me straight. Don't bullshit me about anything. Tell me what I need to know and have me move on. And I don't want you talking to where you spend 20 minutes on one thing that I could have gotten when I was at home. So for me, I own my individuality. I own that I have fun with it on the days that I can. I love teaching. I think it is one of the most addictive and fun things that I do. And then have fun with it. So we are almost at time. I will tell you, I did a team call this morning, and I'm going to ask you guys the same question. Given all of the different legislative stuff that is going on, there are a lot of people out there that don't understand what happens and how the DOI, Department of Insurance, CMS, Center for Medicaid, Medicare Services, and Congress all work. Who does what? How does it work? How do these things happen? And all the things in between. Why are regulations the way that they are? Is this something that if I put a training together in, let's say, 2 weeks, is that something that you want me to teach you? Okay, I'm getting an emphatic yes. Okay, so I will put that together after we get done with this call. I will put it together and I will get it out on Facebook so that way you guys can see it. For those of you that do not know, I usually do a 3-week lead time on my events, and they are always posted. All the public ones are posted on Facebook. You can find them under Facebook events under my name. They are usually also posted on LinkedIn. They are on my website, and they are also on in the Facebook groups. And for those of you that are like, okay, I love the content that you do, I don't want to move my contracts, that's totally fine. If you want to help me, tell people about me. Tell people to follow my social media. That is the biggest way that you can help me, because then I'm able to get more of this messaging out, where then it gets the industry better at what they do. And that's my whole goal, is I want to change the stereotype of what we do, and I want to get you guys stronger. So with that, I am at time. So I hope this hit for you guys. I hope you are feeling better about going out and talking in front of groups. If you're not, message me. I'm happy to go ahead and help. If we need to do a round 2, we can. I will upload the replay of this shortly, and thank you all for attending. I hope you have a great rest of your day.